against Russia, hitting back over evidence showing Russian hacks intended to interfere in the U.S. election. So what exactly are they planning? CNN Justice correspondent Evan Perez has been tracking this, getting all the details from Washington. Evan, what are you picking up right now?
Well, Kate, in the next few hours, if all goes expect new sanctions and diplomatic measures. They're expected to name individuals associated with the Russian disinformation operation that U.S. intelligence agencies say it can take whenever it chooses. The Russian reaction so far is, well, lies and misinformation. That's what they say the Obama administration is up to, a foreign ministry. And of course, in just a couple of weeks here, we're going to have a new president in Washington who doesn't believe that the Russians were behind the cyber hacks of Democratic Party organizations. And Kate, you know, these are actions that Donald Trump can undo if he chooses. Obviously, we know the White House is probably watching right now. We'd love to see what they've got up their sleeve. Hopefully they can press the button on that announcement anytime now.
Yep, everyone would love to hear exactly who's named in those sanctions and what diplomatic measures they're talking about. Evan, thank you so much. Evan Perez working his sources on that right now. So for more on this, let me bring in right now Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar. Senator Klobuchar is traveling right now in Russia's neighbors, the Baltic states. Senators Lindsey Graham and John McCain are in Lithuania today. The senator is joining me by the phone. Senator, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Kate. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks so much for jumping on the phone. We really appreciate it. So these sanctions that's going to be announced from the president, do you think the sanctions that the president's going to be rolling out will go forward?
And the one thing we've learned in the Baltic states is they've seen this movie before. This is not about one country or one country's election. Horrific as this conduct was. Estonia was attacked in 2007 just for moving a bronze statue. Cyber attack. Their members of parliament attempts to spy on them and bug them their web access. And this is something that they have done systematically. So this is an attack not just on an American election, one political party. It is an attack on all the democracies, and that's why it's so important that the call for Senator McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham leading it, investigations, public hearings, and then also increased sanctions beyond what the administration may be announcing today.
It does seem this is one area where there is bipartisan support around something to come out of.
Well, obviously they've acted on threats before, but the point is we have not responded to this. This is an attack on the fundamental American election system, which is as critical to our system of governance and to the world's democracies as anything can be. When you have the world's greatest democracy attacked this way, if we were to do nothing, it's tantamount to saying, go do it in the German elections, go do it in the French elections. So they can say what they want, but we have to stand tall, Democrats and Republicans, and say this.
Trump reacted to talk of new sanctions against Russia. Listen to this.
I think we ought to get on with our lives. I think that computers have complicated lives very greatly. The whole age of computer has made it where nobody knows exactly what's going on. We have speed, we have a lot of other things, but I'm not sure you have the kind of security that you need. But I have not spoken with the senators, and I certainly will be over a period of time.
Senator, it might have been a little hard to hear that, especially over the phone, but essentially
all the way to
line
Lithuania, yes.
Our lives. Your reaction to that?
Well, getting on with our lives means a life based on freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of democracy, and not being influenced by foreign powers and hackers. And so I am hopeful that when the president-elect gets into office, he will take this very seriously. He must. The office is bigger than anyone that serves in the office, and our government is based on this fundamental principle of a democracy. I can tell you that we have equal branches of government, and there are Democrats and Republicans in the Senate and the House that feel very strongly about this. So I hope as we move forward that he has voiced, while wanting the NATO countries to get up to 2%, which I support, spent on defense, he has voiced support for NATO. NATO is very important right now because there's nothing Russia would like more than a divided NATO or divided U.S. from NATO. And so my view is that Congress will stand together on this, Democrats and Republicans, and I'm hopeful that the president-elect will as well.
You said you hope when he takes office he takes this seriously. Do you think he takes this issue seriously now?
I am not going to base my decisions on his tweets and offhand comments. I'm going to base my decision on what he does when he gets into office. I know that President Obama takes this seriously, or he wouldn't be announcing these increased sanctions and diplomatic responses today.
Trump can, with regard to the announcement coming from President Obama and the White House and the administration, Trump can reverse any moves that he announces against Russia the moment that Trump takes office. What if he does, Senator?
Well, that would be horrific, and I cannot believe, despite the fact that he has commended Putin over our own president, something that I won't forget, I can't believe that he would take that step to reverse these executive actions if, in fact, the president decides that our current president, that we need to change his executive order so that it includes attack on one of our most critical pieces of infrastructure, and that's our election system. Because remember, Kate, this isn't just about Russia. Any other nation, whether it is China or any other country, could attack our election system. So if the president either issues a new executive order or amends his 2015 order, this will be about protecting the integrity of our election system from any foreign power or any foreign influence. And so I think it would be hard-pressed for the new president to come in and make that kind of change, and I would be hopeful that he would not do that. I hope he listens to Senator McCain and Senator Graham and some of the other Republican senators who have been very vocal about this.
You're traveling,
we literally
as you mentioned.
stood today. We stood today, Kate, with some of the people who 25 years ago, asserted the independence of Lithuania and were willing to stand up to Russia at that point, and we are not going to let these people down.
As you mentioned, you're traveling, touring with Senators McCain and Graham right now. Senator Graham said this week about Russia, about the Russian hacks, that Trump is at odds with 99 of the 100 members of the Senate right now on this issue. Who is that one senator that is with Trump on this, do you think?
And needless to say, I have quizzed Lindsey about this at length, and he was just generally speaking that maybe one senator wouldn't be there or would maybe miss a vote because they were taking a nap or maybe had a different view. He was not singling out any single senator. And I think he made the point for a reason, and that is that there is widespread bipartisan support for standing up to these Baltic nations, standing up for them, to supporting NATO, and then certainly to not allow foreign powers to affect our elections. As Marco Rubio has said, one day it's the Democratic Party that gets attacked, the next day it'll be the Republican Party that gets attacked. And one of the things that is coming out loud and clear on this trip is that Russia has done this before. It has been a method they've used in Ukraine, they've used in Estonia, they've been used in Lithuania, and they will continue to do it unless we put a stop to it. And so I'm glad that there is forward movement today, and it's meaningful not just to our country, but to the national security for democracies across the world.
Senator, thanks for letting me put you on the spot on that one. I really appreciate the time. Please travel safe. We'll talk to you guys when you get back. You keep quizzing him. Exactly. Tell him to call in. We'll always take his calls. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Another big headline regarding Russia right now, brokering a ceasefire in Syria. Turkey and Russia just announced this fragile agreement set to go into effect in just hours there. Could this be a glimmer, a sliver of hope for that war-torn country? Let's bring in CNN's senior international correspondent Matthew Chance. He's in Moscow right now, and CNN's Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr as well. Matthew, first to you. What are you hearing? What is the very latest on this ceasefire? How is this different?
Well, I think it's much broader, first of all, than other ceasefires that have been agreed and have failed in the past. It brings in both Russia and Turkey. It's been guaranteed by both of them. And that's important because these are two countries that are on opposite sides of the conflict in Syria, with Russia supporting Bashar al-Assad, the Syrian president, and Turkey supporting a variety of rebel groups opposed to Assad. It's not just a ceasefire which goes into effect from midnight local time tonight. It's also an agreement to police that ceasefire, although the details of how that's going to be policed aren't clear, and as a third agreement for there to be peace talks next month in Kazakhstan, in Central Asia, where all the parties will get together and they will try and work out how a long-term solution to this long-running Syrian conflict can be hammered out. There are a couple of important caveats, the main one being that the main groups fighting the Assad regime in Syria right now, and they're the Islamist groups of Islamic State and of Jabhat Fatah al-Sham, previously known as the Al-Nusra Front, affiliated, of course, with Al-Qaeda, do not appear at this point to be included in this ceasefire agreement. Definitely ISIS isn't. There's some debate over whether the Al-Nusra Front is included in it. But, of course, that would mean that these are the groups that do most of the fighting against the Syrian regime at the moment. And so the actual conflict is not necessarily going to come to a sudden end because of this ceasefire, Kate.
And as Matthew points out very appropriately, Barbara, these ceasefires have, even if you even want to call some of them in the past a ceasefire, they've fallen through before. What is the U.S. watching for this time?
Well, you're right, Kate. It's very, very difficult to get these things into place and have them have real meaning. And I think they're very much watching here at the Pentagon and throughout the Obama administration exactly what Matthew's talking about. ISIS is not included in this. The Al-Nusra Front's not included. So if the fighting goes on from those groups, what are we really talking about here? Does it leave the U.S. with two untenable positions? Either support the Russian effort, support the Russian effort with the Iranians, or support the Al-Nusra and ISIS.
Matthew, can you hear us still?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay, great. I just wanted to make sure. So as Barbara was talking about, kind of what the U.S. is watching for on this side, I also want to get then what you're hearing, Matthew, in terms of what's behind the Russian foreign minister's comments today that he hopes that President-elect Trump will join their effort to end the crisis in Syria. Of course, the United States, as much as they can and have been trying to end the crisis in Syria, isn't this more up to people, the main actors here, like Russia?
And absolutely, what Barbara was saying then was absolutely right. I mean, this is a major Russian achievement in the sense that they've achieved one of their big goals in Syria, which was, first of all, to support Bashar al-Assad. Yes, they've done that, but they wanted to neutralize the moderate Syrian opposition, to take the moderate opposition off the table, out of the field, to turn this conflict into a simple choice. Do you support the terrorists, the Al-Nusra Front and Islamic State, or do you support those who are signed up to this now new Russian initiative? And that's the choice that they're going to be presenting as a result of this deal to the United States. Sergei Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, basically said that directly to the United States today, saying, look, we hope when Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States, he will join us in these discussions, in these peace talks, to bring to an end the Syrian conflict. The alternative isn't viable if this ceasefire lasts.